There we go. Good afternoon, and I'm Marie. I'm with Mercy Med, and we're coming together today to learn a little bit and get some education on diabetes and what it is, because it's a chronic illness, affects more than we can begin to imagine, and it kind of affects everything within your whole lifestyle. But it's very manageable. I want to try to give you some tools that'll help. Our first slide is, can I get diabetes? And diabetes is a disease where your blood sugars get too high. Normally, your pancreas, which is an organ in the top part of your stomach, makes insulin, and the insulin helps bring the sugar or glucose into your cells. And when your body can't make enough insulin, or the insulin it makes is not effective, that can cause us to have diabetes. So the next slide takes and goes over, it says, but diabetes can be controlled, and it can be controlled with a healthy diet, exercise, and medications. And it goes on to tell us that there's over 450 million people in the world with diabetes. And the big reason that we really want to control it is because that diabetes can lead to a lot of bad complications, blindness, heart disease and heart attacks, stroke, kidney failure or dialysis, amputations. And it goes on, and I'm not sure why, but there are some populations that are affected a little bit more, like your African Americans, your Latinos, your American Indians, and your and I'm gonna say, I guess, Eskimos or Native Alaskans, but it can affect all of us at some point in time. All right, the next one that we'll go to is, what are some of the risk factors for getting diabetes? And one of them we have no control over is our family history. So if you've got like a mom, a dad, a brother, or sister, that gives us risk factors. We share the same genes, so we can't do too much about that. But there are things we can help, and one of them is our weight. The more overweight we are, the increased risk of diabetes. If we're sedentary, and doesn't take a whole lot of exercise, we're just talking about like walking for 20-30 minutes most days of the week. The American diet tends to lend ourselves to it. We do better if we eat our vegetables and fruits and things like that, and not as much of the processed foods. Age, can't help our age, can we? But as we get older, 45 years and older, it puts us at increased risk. Also, high blood pressure, cholesterol levels that are elevated, prior history of heart disease, gestational diabetes, and having a baby that's over 9 pounds at birth, or some other things that can increase your risk is if you've got the polycystic ovarian syndrome. So those are all risk factors for getting diabetes. The next thing we'll go over is a lot of times people have diabetes and they're not even aware that they have it. Sometimes you may not have any symptoms at first, but the most common ones are what they'll say. You just feel thirsty, can't get enough to drink. You find yourself having to go to the bathroom to urinate or pee a lot. And then unexplained weight loss. And that almost sounds counterintuitive, but when your blood cells can't take and get glucose into them, then they're going to try to burn off fat and protein or muscle to make it. And that's why sometimes you may have heard of somebody goes into an acidosis, where their body's trying to burn the fat for energy. So it's real important that we monitor and test our blood sugars, and there's some tests that we do in the office for that. Okay, the next one. All right. Once we do take and make diagnosis of diabetes, there's things that you can do to get control, because I think having control puts, I know I like to have some control. So one of them is eating right. And you don't have to be a millionaire. A lot of it is just kind of following the basic healthy food plan, where most of our plate is vegetables, and say that's half your plate, and then on the other half, divided in half. So a fourth of it would be our lean protein, and a fourth of it would be our whole grain or starchy things. The other thing is exercise. Like I said, simple things such as walking help quite a bit. And then many times we end up with medications, and there's a whole slew of them, everything from pills to sometimes some injections. Now, pre-diabetes is like it's your body, it's almost like a warning sign. Your body's saying, hey, we need to get this under control before we're full-fledged diabetics. And you might have heard somebody said in the past, I've had people that'll say, oh, I'm borderline, but it's probably the more correct way would be to say pre-diabetic. And that's when you have a A1C, if you would notice, would be between 5.7 and say 6.3. And that's kind of your body's way of giving you a warning that we need to get it under control. Okay. Okay, so there are things that you can do to prevent it, stay healthy. So they say cut back on food with empty calories. So that's like our sodas, our cakes, our chips, pies. It's not that I can say you never can, but it should be, that should be more of the rarity. Eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of the low-fat foods and high-fiber foods, beans, whole grains, oatmeal. These will help fill you up too. Make physical activity as part of your daily routine, and do stuff you like. If turning on the music and dancing in the house makes you happy, then do that. Or if you've got a sport, I like to get out in the yard and do some gardening. But sometimes that can be it, and walking. So just getting up and moving, and then trying to keep your weight in a normal range. And it may start with small amounts. If you're overweight, small changes with even a weight reduction of like 10, 20 pounds can make a big difference. And then getting tested. And once we do come up with a diagnosis of diabetes, we will be monitoring your labs kind of frequently, just to make sure that that you have good control so we can prevent the complications. Okay, Casey. Okay, so I want to go ahead and make sure that you know what the signs are if your blood sugar's too high or too low. So the first one is too low. And the reason we want to know if it's too low, because you gotta have glucose for those brain cells. So if your blood sugar's too low, then you may feel like your heart's going real fast, feel very hungry and shaky. Some people say they get very sweaty. Others, as it gets really, really low, can become very tired or sleepy, sometimes confusion, dizziness, headache. So these are all symptoms that your blood sugars are low. And one of the things you can do is check your blood sugar if you've got your glucometer. And if it is, then you want to take a small source of food or drink to get it up. And something that you can do if it's too low is you could take like 4 ounces of fruit juice, or the little tiny packs of raisins like the kids would put, the really small ones, not the big ones, but the small boxes, like the kids put in their lunch boxes, or a couple of what do I say, lifesavers, a graham cracker with some peanut butter, but something just to bring it up. And then once you've got it up, a good protein source. Okay, now high blood sugar or hyperglycemia has symptoms too. And again, it's like that thirsty, 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 feel like you can't get enough to drink, a dry mouth, going to the bathroom a lot. You feel like you go into urinate every few minutes. Your vision can become blurred, headache, which is on both of them. And then if you're really burning fat and protein, your urine can have a funny smell as well as your breath. And that's not a good sign because that can mean that you are going in ketoacidosis. Okay. All right. And blood sugars vary. It's never the same number. My blood sugar is not the same all through the day. If we were to test it at different points of the day, we would see that we always have a little bit of a variable. What I eat and drink and how often I eat and drink can affect it. Even drinks such as alcoholic beverages. When I exercise, can make it go up initially and then down. And exercise is really good over time at making your blood sugars going down. If you're taking your medicines, and then there are some medicines that will make your blood sugars go up, and things like steroids, or like if there's a cough syrup that's got sugar in it, those are all things that can make blood sugars go up. Also, illness and stress and travel can make our blood sugars go up, even without eating or drinking anything different. What we try to individualize blood sugar goals for everybody, but a good rule of thumb is if your blood sugar is between 80 to 130 before you eat, that's a good one. So that's like a fasting. And then after eating within 2 hours should decrease, and it says 180. We may take we do kind of base it on individuals. So, but that's a good range right there. Okay. All right. So they've got the 15-50 rule. It says if your blood sugar falls below 70, then you need to eat something with sugar in it. And we kind of went over that a few minutes ago. Something like juice, a hard candy, or a fast-acting sugar. And usually it's a 15 gram. And then test your blood sugar in 15 minutes. And you want to make sure that it's going up. If it's still below 70, then eat another serving and continue these steps until your blood sugar is at least 70. And then let your provider know, especially if your blood sugar falls below 54. And like I said, remember, we want to make sure that it's at least 70 and above, because your brain cells need that glucose to function. If your blood sugar is higher than normal, then you need to think, what did I eat? And if you took your medicines at the right time or the right amount, or if there was anything different. And like I said, too, if you're sick, sometimes that might be a clue that something's going on, because your blood sugars can go up with that. Sometimes we have to change medications and regimens and all that, especially if your blood sugars are consistently above 240. And so it's really good if you'll let us know so that we can work together to try to get them better controlled. All right. So healthy eating and regular exercise definitely can help your blood glucose from becoming too high or too low. So improving your diet and becoming more active will also help with your heart. It'll help with your weight and give you more energy. And it can even be a stress reducer. So eating right with diabetes, it says when you change, what you eat can change your blood sugar. It's important to make healthy choices and to eat the right amount of food. Your meals should have a variety of healthy foods that contain protein, fats, and carbohydrates. And anytime we eat something with a starch, it gets broken down into some glucose. And this is where we're kind of working together with Scott and Casey with the exercise, and with Keith with his with the farm and the fruits and vegetables. So it kind of all works together. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then do you want to take questions next, Marie? Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for
and we'll do a little bit more each time. We're kind of taking it slow to begin with, but if you have some questions, I would be glad to answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was just wondering, before I eat, my blood sugar should be between 80 and 130. And it should be under 180.
Well, we individualize it. We like fasting. A lot of times, if somebody's on medicine, will allow it to be, say, maybe 100, less than 140, 120. We may not have it down quite as low as someone who's not on meds, because we don't want you to drop too low when you're not at night. So sometimes, and we have to individualize it on everybody. But if your blood sugars are 100, 120 in the morning fasting, and then after eating, they're, say, 2 hours after eating are down to 180, that's pretty good control.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And what are there any other things that people should be concerned about, of like when to contact your provider? So obviously, if their readings are off, if they're having symptoms, are there any other things they need to be aware of with diabetes? That would be other signs they need to contact provider.
If you're throwing up and not able to keep foods down, you probably need to let your provider know, because we may say, hey, what's your blood sugar reading? Should we hold off on something? Oh, and one of the meds that's used quite a bit is metformin or glucophage. It's one of the first line pills that we give. That's one medicine that you definitely want to make sure, if you're going for any kind of x-rays or anything like that, that have what they call IV dye or contrast, that the person doing the x-ray and your provider knows, because they're going to say, don't take that medicine for 48 hours. So that's one thing that's real important. And I think the other thing is just something that I think that can be helpful if you're having trouble with your blood sugars and knowing what's what, is kind of keeping a diary, and say one day you do it fasting, first thing in the morning when you get up. Maybe the next day you do it 2 hours after eating lunch, and kind of keep an idea of what you're eating. I have known people that really truly didn't, used to be everybody said it's the sugar diabetes. So if I'm not eating cake or cookies or something like that, that's sweet, that it's not going to go up. But the cornbread, the bread, the pasta, that can all make it go up too. And sometimes the amount that we eat, it's not that you can't have it, but it's just finding the right portion size. Mm-hmm. And I think another tip that I had from one of the young ladies that I was working with, whose husband's a diabetic, is how do you eat right in the real world when you're going out? Because we got to eat to live. So one of the things she said, and her husband was working, and so he had to eat away from the house quite a bit. And so that one of the rules that they used was, like if they're going to fast food, that you pick one that might not be as good and two that are better. So we'll just say you're going to McDonald's or Burger King. Okay, so if I'm going to choose one that may not be as good, maybe I'll take the bun and the grilled chicken but then I'll get a side salad and a water. So that way I haven't completely done it. Or if you really want, let's see, what would be another one that you could do?
I
If
want
you
French,
want,
give
hmm?
me, I want French fries.
Well, then do the French fries and maybe take the bread off of the burger that you're going to do and have the water. Or a toss, or maybe a side salad, the French fries, and a water. So it's just kind of trying to figure out how to balance it out. And then the other thing is, if you do eat, don't kill yourself. I mean, we're going to all eat. If it's a birthday, I'm going to get a slice of birthday cake. But maybe what I do is try to do it earlier in the day, drink some water, and maybe walk a little bit afterwards.
So
Okay.
your infection, is there anything COVID specific that is specific for diabetics with COVID, or is it just the same for diabetics as general population?
Diabetes puts you at increased risk for infections of all sorts. So I would just do your regular stuff with COVID, wear your mask, try to wash your hands, try to avoid people that are coughing. We're going to be coming up in the fall with the flu and pneumonia season. And one of the big pushes for our diabetics is to make sure that they're immunized or they get their vaccinations, because you're at an increased risk for those infections.
Mm-hmm. And right now we're doing mostly video and telephone. So can someone over a telephone, they can ask for a vaccination and you can order that for them?
Sure, we can. Now they'll have to come in to get the actual vaccine. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're in the state of Georgia, some of the vaccines are no cost, but you can definitely ask at the front desk, and they can help you with that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any other thoughts or questions? All right. Any questions from anyone watching? You can either put it in the chat box, or you could also unmute and ask a question if you have one. But thank you for taking time. Marie, why are you so excited and motivated to help diabetics?
Well, for one thing is it can prevent the complications. And there's so many complications. I mean, heart disease, just having diabetes puts you at risk for a heart attack or stroke. And we don't want that. We don't want that at all. My dad was a diabetic, and he died at age 62. And I'm 60, so I'm thinking that's not too far away. And if I can prevent someone from going through that at a young age, that'll be worth it. And like I said, it is a lifestyle type thing. It's a chronic illness. It's very controllable. But anytime we can delay the complications or problems with it, then it'll make us feel better.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. Thank you. I think you've already offered to share our next diabetic education class for diabetes education the end of August, right?
Mm-hmm. And this is going to be continual. We'll go a little bit more and more and eventually get into meal planning, and then we can even get into medications. We're just starting from the basics.
Mm-hmm. So as people have questions, they can send them to our MercyMed Facebook. They could give us a Facebook Messenger about any questions they have. They could also share questions with their providers, and if you're their provider, they can share questions so that you can help answer those questions at our next session.
Would be glad to.
All right, thank you so much, Marie. Appreciate you. And our next wellness is going to be on the 5th, so that's next Wednesday. We're going to do exercise club, and the week after, do an Ask the Farmer with Farmer Keith on MercyMed Farm. But this coming Friday, if anyone wants to get those delicious vegetables, the farm is doing their almost one of the last farm stands for the season from 9 to 12 on Friday. So Mercy Med Farm has all kinds of produce, and we have 3 other farms that will be there 9 to 12 on Friday.
And that's a good part of diabetes too, is eating those vegetables and fruits.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Marie. Appreciate you.
Thank you guys for coming.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.